There have always been those who have claimed to possess the gift of foresight. From the Delphic oracle of ancient Greece to Nostradamus, the eyes of these chosen few have watched cities burn and whole histories unfold as though merely pages of a book. Many of these visionaries claim that the future comes to them in their dreams, an uncontrollable power of premonition which reveals insights, sometimes tragic, of events yet to pass. For those few, the question remains whether they are merely observers or actors in their own right, able to use their foresight to change the future. Here are 2 subscriber-submitted stories of people whose dreams have foreshadowed the future. While I have always been fascinated by the paranormal, nothing paranormal ever really happened to me until I turned 14. In the spring of that year, I lived in a small town in Tennessee in America. One morning, I had a terrible nightmare. In the nightmare, my mother, father, and my father's brother went to a department store. The parking lot was empty, and it was over a river. I couldn't see it, but I knew that it was there because the parking lot was very thin. I was afraid of the river because I cannot swim. At the bank, near the parking lot, there was a bush with a tree growing out of it. For some reason, the strange bush tree stuck out in my mind. In the department store, we couldn't find what we were looking for. When we left the store and got into the car, I remember feeling panic. My mother was driving, and she drove forward instead of backward. We went into the river. I dreamt that the car was filling up with water. I was terrified. I knew that I was going to drown. All the while my dad kept yelling, "Don't worry, we're going to be okay." He lowered the windows so he and my mother were able to exit the car. My uncle and I were in the back seat. We did the same. I remember the water was very muddy. I could just about see the light through the water as I swam towards the surface. I was almost there when, suddenly, something grabbed my right foot. I looked down. It was my uncle. He was pulling me down, deeper into the water. With that, I screamed and woke up. That whole week I was very upset by the dream. It had been more real than any dream I had ever had before. I told my teachers and friends about the dream. I was that terrified. I had the dream on the Monday. By Friday, I was feeling better. In fact, I had almost forgotten about it at that point. After school that day, I went to my neighbor's house and was talking with them when my mom came and got me. She looked panicked. It was then that she told me that there had been an emergency. My uncle, a different uncle from the dream, was missing. My uncle Jimmy, his son, and his son's friend had gone fishing together. My uncle had been in his boat, whilst my cousin and his friend were using my cousin's boat. Sometime during the trip, the second boat lost sight of the first. Eventually they found my Uncle Jimmy's boat. However, he himself was nowhere to be seen. Fearing the worst, the sheriff organized a team of divers and dragged the river. During that week, I didn't go to school. At this point, we didn't have any hope of finding him alive. My mum and I stayed at my aunt's house, while my dad went to the river to help them search the woods. On the Sunday, my mum and I went to the river to help with the searching ourselves. It was the first time I had ever been there. There was a gravel road that sloped down to the riverbank, and I refused to be in the car when my mum parked it. She let me out and I walked down the hill. There were a lot of people gathered, with porta potties and tables of food laid out for all those involved in the search. My mum and I decided to sit by the river on a large rock, and that's when I saw it. By the riverbank, there was a bush with a tree growing out of it. The same one from my dream. I immediately began to freak out. I told my mom about the tree and began spluttering about my dream, trying to refresh her memory of what I had told her only a few days before. I felt like she wasn't listening to me. She wanted me to calm down. She thought that I was making a scene and being disrespectful of the situation. So, for now, I held my tongue. Later that day, my dad and I had to use the restroom. We didn't want to use the porta potties because people were gathered near them and getting food from the tables. So we walked up the hill by the river. At the top of the hill, there was a thin slab of concrete on the ground with a metal rod sticking out of it. All of a sudden, I felt sick. That awful sinking feeling that you feel when you've been caught doing something you shouldn't be washed over me. I stood on the concrete. To my left, there was a cliff over the river. The tree branches were thin, and I told my dad, "They're going to find him soon." I pointed to the clearing in the river. "Right there. When they find him, they'll find his right shoe." My dad came over and hit my hand. He said not to tell anyone what I had just told him, and that I should be ashamed. The next day, divers found my uncle's right shoe. My dad had told them to check the spot I had pointed to. When they found my uncle's body, he was wearing a cotton overall. It was believed that when it filled up with water, he had lacked the strength to swim to the surface. After this happened, I became convinced that I had some sort of gift. I had known where they would find my uncle and had dreamt of the river that would claim his life. I had seen the future and would continue to do so from then on. I can predict the future. To be more explicit, I don't remember dreams more than maybe a dozen times a month, but when I do remember them, they often foreshadow an event that is yet to happen. Sometimes the event comes to pass the following day. Sometimes it can take more time, the record so far being 4 years. Mostly, my insights are limited to boring stuff. I've seen lots of news headlines before they show up. People turning up late to work. What I'll be eating on a future day. Occasionally, I do see more. When I was in school, I used my ability to cheat on tests. Another time, I saw a car crash before it happened and avoided getting a broken arm. I predicted the death of every pet I've ever owned, months in advance with an exact date. At one point, I was even able to piece together the events of 2 days straight. I also dreamt of the riots in California after Trump was elected before they happened. Although, in the version I saw, the military was involved, so I'm under the impression it might be an event yet to come. When I was a child, I was obsessed with the idea of lucid dreaming. Eventually, I trained my brain so well that almost all of my dreams were lucid. I used this omnipotency to create what I came to call the Enigma machine. Basically, my childhood method for creating simulations of anything I wanted. I created situations I was curious about in order to see how well they played out, so I was better prepared for them. However, as time passed, I realized that all of these simulations were flawed. They were taking place in a world where everything happened exactly as I wanted them to. No physics, no chemistry or general laws of the universe. Instead, everything was governed by my biases. So, I stopped using my Enigma machine. It was then that I first experienced true foresight. The first thing I ever saw with it was a headline about a barn full of fertilizer burning down. Nowadays, aside from my foresight, I rarely dream at all. If I do not see a future event, it is just a great blackness until I wake up. Part of me wonders if my foresight was triggered by my childhood lucid dreaming. Did I learn how to access a part of my brain which would have otherwise been off limits? I do not know. I know that there are a lot of people who think I'm just assigning dreams to events. Believe me when I say I've seen a few psychologists who all diagnose me as being slightly off my rocker, or just brushed me off as an angsty teen trying to assign meaning to life. However, they can't understand the fight I've had with myself trying to debunk it all as bogus. I am a strong believer in everything having an explanation, but I just cannot find one here. All I know is that sometimes I dream things which go on to happen exactly as I saw them until I interfere. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these stories, be sure to watch another subscriber-submitted premonition story on Friday. Remember, the more you know, the more there is to fear.